Wicked's entire premise is doing a lot of fun deconstruction of what it even means to be good or bad. And in particular, the way that the word good is reiterated in the show is very interesting. The show is concerned with these ideas to the point that it bookends itself with these words. The very first word in the show is good, and the very last word of the show is wicked. And in particular, Glinda's journey of redefining good is her major arc as a character, and we can follow it in the various, very different ways that the word good is attributed to her throughout the show. Now, obviously, it's Glinda who has the more overt relationship to the word good, and how it's weaponized by her, assigned to her, and it's, in her fake title. But Elphaba too, of course, also has her own complex journey and relationship with good. And so I'll be making a separate video on that eventually as well. So with all that said, let's go through the various ways that good is attributed to Glinda. We kick it right off. Glinda's first spoken line is, "It's good to see me, isn't it?" Here, good refers to how the Ozians perceive her. That is, pleasant, reassuring. She even, tongue-in-cheek, calls the question rhetorical. It's a good first joke for the audience of the show, but it's also a way to declare, well, of course, it's self-evident that it's good to see Glinda the Good. That's her whole job. And at this point, that's all we know about her. Despite the question being rhetorical, still, Glinda is posing it to other people. Glinda's biggest asset and biggest curse is how she draws power from others, from their opinion of and perception of her.
I could care less what others think.
Couldn't.
This Glinda at the beginning of the show, evolved as she might be, still has to rely on other people's acceptance of her to stay afloat, tacitly prompting them to validate how nice it is to see her. So here, Glinda uses the word good to describe other people's feelings towards her. So, why is she using the word here? She's playing the Ozians' own game at this point because she still has to, validating their own perception of her in a playful way. As she reveals the news of Elphaba's demise and the departure of the wizard, she's co-signing their worldview, probably in hopes that if they continue to see her as this bastion of what they think is good, they might eventually, slowly, listen to what she has to say as she tries to make a legitimately better world. Now, pointedly from here on, nearly all of the next times good is used to refer to her are all other people talking about her. This beat is often played as an extended, and sometimes overdone, but usually delightfully indulgent, bit, while the show is still in the lighthearted part of the first act. The scene goes as follows. Glinda declares that she already has a private suite, leading her fellow students to become disappointed, which she recognizes and then quickly remedies with an offer that they can always visit. This is an immediate character-defining moment for Glinda at this juncture, who cares oh so very much about what people think, valuing her status and privacy, but still also desperate to please those around her. This response, then, from the Shen Shen and Fanny actors is to tell her how good she is for this generosity.
Oh, how good of you! You are so good!
Glinda then responds, jokingly, with false humbleness.
And I'm not. Yes, you are.
Until the actors eventually get cut off by the morable actor telling them to shut up. Like many Glinda moments, this one is mostly comedic on the surface, but contains within it genuine depth. Glinda is given the descriptor of good, here meaning generous, for something pretty mundane. Letting people visit. We could be analyzing way out of the original scope of the lines, which, again, are pretty lighthearted, but there's almost a hint of Glinda overriding her own privacy and space in order to appease others, allowing people to visit her whenever they want, to make them like her more. The use of good is linked with external validation, and has less to do with truth or material reality, but with how things are perceived. To put it another way,
It's not about aptitude, it's the way you're viewed.
or
The truth is not a thing of fact or reason. The truth is just what everyone agrees on.
it's not descriptive but prescriptive. And we might ask, why are they doing this? Because Glinda is popular, and it's an easy way to get her to like them, making her feel good about herself and boosting their own social status at the same time. There's nothing about actual morality or character here, but a lot of ego and appearance. Within the same scene, we immediately get another person calling Glinda good. And here, it's even more ironic. Glinda goes to complain to Morrible about her not reading her essay, which is fair, actually, a gesture which then gets misinterpreted as volunteering to room with Elphaba, almost undermining her previous promise that people could visit her private suite, which now is no longer private. Here, Glinda gets commended as a good person, again, in this case meaning generous, altruistic, sacrificing her own comfort to help someone else, for something that she didn't actually offer to do.
Thank you, that is very good of you. What?
And then, this very thing will be used by the rest of the student body to call Glinda a martyr for sharing a room with someone that she didn't even mean to share a room with, not just because that alone is a presumptive act of generosity, but because who she is forced to room with is a terror that she has to endure. This is punctuated by so, similar to the previous scene, someone else is calling Glinda good, and this time for a perceived act of genuine kindness that Glinda has not actually meant. And also, right after this, Morrible will tell Elphaba that if she, quote, makes good, she'll be able to work with the wizard. Put a pin in that for another video. In this scene, Glinda is using her social know-how to deflect unwanted advances from Bach in a way diplomatic enough to get him off her back, without actually pissing him off. Is trying to spare someone's feelings in this way a kindness, or not? This scene is punctuated by the fact that it is mid-dancing through life, which is really Fiero's solo, and he's sort of lurking in the background watching this whole interaction. Bach tries to ask Glinda out, she calls the invite kind, not good, kind, but then prompts him to do something even kinder, to invite another social outcast, Nessa, who presumably wouldn't be asked to join because of her disability. Goes without saying that this entire interaction is also laced with the same kind of insensitive disability talk that permeates Nessa's whole presence in the show, which is its own greater issue. Anyhow, Glinda frames Bach asking Nessa as something that would make him a hero in her eyes, drawing some parallels with Glinda's presumed martyrism for rooming with Elphaba, and presumably hoping that Bach and Nessa end up hitting it off enough that Bach kind of leaves her alone for good. Now, Glinda's not being totally nice here, but to be fair, Bach also has been a bit annoying.
Miss Glinda! Miss Glinda!
Not really reading the room, and rejecting anyone's repeated unwanted advances, especially a woman doing that to a man, is often something that has to be done with some degree of delicacy. Both things are true. As this interaction ends, Fiero commends her.
You're good.
I don't know what you mean.
Now, Fiero here is very clearly not using the word good as a word denoting actual kindness, but good as in skilled. Good as in commending her understanding and use of social dynamics to diffuse a situation. Glinda's response is just as telling.
I don't know what you mean.
Again, this whole interaction is played a bit for laughs, but it's packed with meaning just under the surface. Glinda feigning cluelessness when commended for her social shrewdness leads directly into her later declaration in Popular about it being
That's very shrewd.
she is not stupid. She is not unaware of what she's doing. It's certainly not malicious necessarily, not most of the time, but it is calculated, it is self-serving, and her performative obliviousness is part of this tactic, because it's disarming and allows people to underestimate her as just an airhead. Fiero, who is probably familiar with these kinds of moves himself as the party boy prince, calls her out on it. So, why is Glinda being called this here? Unlike the previous instances, this isn't Fiyero being fooled by Glinda or someone beneath her trying to appease her, nor someone thinking that she's doing something nice by mistake. This is the complete opposite. In this case, this is someone external calling her good as a way of showing that they see right through her act, and praising her ability to essentially manipulate people. Still, Fiyero says it with admiration, and the next thing he'll call her is perfect, as they both describe each other as ideal for completely hollow status reasons. Later in the same song, a song which is basically just a bunch of scenes stitched together, Glinda will describe the goodness of her heart as the reason for giving Elphaba the hat. We know this to be false, and this again links the use of good with duplicitousness. Pointedly, then, it's this very act, though, that prompts Glinda's first genuine, sincere moment in the show so far, as she decides to risk humiliation, stepping towards Elphaba and joining her in front of everyone. This is where Glinda receives her name.
That's not how you describe it to me.
Well, no, not exactly, but we'll talk about that later.
Good here is a title. It has value and legitimacy because it is assigned and approved of by authority. The same authorities that at this point we know to be a bunch of slime balls. Good here does not denote moral value, but acceptability, and while Glinda is actively stepping into the role as a propaganda piece. And why is she being given this title? Well, as a way to appease two parties, essentially. The Ozians, to give them a counterweight to look to while Elphaba is branded as wicked, and to appease Glinda herself by propping her up in a position she'll find impossible to resist, giving her exactly what she's always been used to, but now en masse. Hollow, unearned praise and attention, in hopes to keep her close and compliant. This one is super juicy. The wizard, who at this point is Guy we know to be a lying freak piece of shit,
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
commends Glinda's ability to manipulate that comes out in a moment of weakness for her.
Use her sister. Spread a rumor. Make her think her sister's in trouble. She'll fly to her side and you'll have her.
Ooh, now that's good.
Kind of a game recognizes game, the way Fiyero did in Dancing Through Life.
You're good.
But this time, much higher and worse stakes. It's kind of a dark inversion of that very moment, where previously that was a flirty, playful recognition of Glinda's people skills. This emphasizes just how much those same skills can easily be weaponized for real cruelty. Glinda's not just cleverly deflecting unwanted advances, she's actively giving the wizard and Morrible a vulnerability of Elphaba's that will be used against her. And Glinda recognizes this herself, a second too late. She gets complimented by the Wizard of Oz, and the moment falls flat. Glinda, ordinarily clinging to every crumb of approval, doesn't thank him. She doesn't react to his admiration at all. She just leaves. And it's clear. A compliment from a man like him is nothing worth celebrating. It may as well be a damnation. The action being complimented here is something that will lead directly to Nessa's death, something neither Glinda nor the audience will consider desirable or moral. And significantly, right, it's not just anybody dishing out this particular praise. As the supreme, unelected leader of Oz, the wizard is the ultimate arbiter of truth, which includes being the arbiter of what is good. It's under his authority that, basically without cause, that Glinda became good in the eyes of Oz. And by the same token, Elphaba became wicked. Obviously, the wizard isn't intending good here to literally mean virtuous, but he is nonetheless telling us what traits he values. So, why is this called good? Because it benefits the wizard, and because it reflects his own playbook. It's underhanded, cunning, and exploitative of human weakness. And here's the kicker for Glinda. The thing about constantly editorializing yourself for the approval of others is that, eventually, their values become your values. It's not what you are, it's what you do. This one is so interesting too. I actually remembered it while I was editing. Here, Morrible directly weaponizes the word good against Glinda, calling her out, justifiably so, on her shit.
The rest of all's may have fallen for that anti-good routine. But I know better.
There's a big fat irony here, however, of course, which is that, yes, Glinda does do the aren't I good routine, but, as far as how and why she's doing it now, that's big time, in part, thanks to Morrible's contributions. She's the one who springs the Glinda the Good title on her at the top of Act 2. And I particularly love how the blocking emphasizes Morrible's role in this whole facade. In Thank Goodness, while Glinda does her Glinda the Good speechifying, Morrible is placed, vigilantly, ominously, behind her. And a detail I often enjoy is when the Morrible actor doesn't just stand there, but reacts to what Glinda is saying. She'll start to look more menacing as Glinda veers off script, and sometimes the Glinda actor will look back, sometimes in fear, sometimes for approval, but always aware she's being watched. This isn't to pin 100% of Glinda's behavior to this point on Morrible's manipulation. I think the precisely juicy thing is that Glinda would have played along whether or not Morrible was standing menacingly behind her. Nonetheless, Morrible's influence is another not insignificant piece of the puzzle. And individually, Morrible is the person who calls Glinda good the most, and this marks the third and final time that she does so. First flippantly at Shiz, then declaring her Glinda the Good. Now, it's with venom, pointing out the irony of just how misplaced that word is for her. Here, the use of good refers directly to the lie and the farce of it all, as Morrible throws the word she once used so casually,
Thank you, dear. That is very good of you.
right in her face. And what does Morrible say this in response to? She says it in response to Glinda, for the first time on stage, directly confronting her.
I suppose it was just her time.
Was it? Or did you?
Now you listen to me, Missy.
Glinda all but accuses Morrible of killing Nessa. We see her realize it in real time, to which Morrible bites back with this to intimidate her. Gone are any pretenses. She hits Glinda where it hurts.
The rest of us may have fallen for that good routine, but I know better. You wanted this from the beginning, and now you're getting what you wanted.
She may as well be saying, don't pretend to be so concerned with right and wrong now. You've gone along with this and benefited from it and have enjoyed all the attention. You're just as bad as me. And I think in this moment, Glinda realizes she could be. If she stays on this track, does what Morrible says.
So just smile and wave. And shut up!
If she never shifts from what is easy, she could be just like Morrible. Just like the wizard, chasing approval and self-preservation to the exclusion of everything else. Those harmed in the process, mere collateral damage. This is a catalyzing moment for Glinda. Despite the fact that it was Morrible's Scarlet Witch hand-waving that created the cyclone that kills Nessa, Glinda herself gave her the information to do so. She can no longer explain away her actions as passive compliance. And as she turns to Morrible, connecting these dots, something shifts. She can't undo what's already happened, but there's still something she can do. She can still do the hard thing.
Elphie? Oh, Elphie!
What is it? You can't be found here. You must go. No. Yes, you must, please.
Well, then I'll go and tell them.
I'll tell everyone that you only turn against you.
I don't care.
I do.
At this point, you might want to point out, correctly, that there's another extremely significant use of the word good here that takes up an entire song. But since I am deciding to write a whole separate video on that song and scene in particular, I'm going to leave this bit to its own devoted analysis. But the main points here are: good is being collaboratively, for the first time, defined via conversation. It's being used two ways. First, to describe the finality of something, being changed definitively, and also pondering the quality of that change. Notably, good here is not something that either of them is innately, but something they might have been influenced to become in some way. After a bunch of people telling Glinda she's good for either stupid or overtly bad reasons, now she's actually having a conversation about what that even means. And a conversation with a person she ought to have it with, who actually knows her best and her worst. It's essentially what Glinda has never been given. Real reflection. Until now, for her, it's been unearned praise and open doors because she's pretty and charismatic and goes along with what's palatable.
Something is very wrong. I didn't get my way.
Before, remarks about her goodness were definitive and one-sided. This conversation is the antithesis to that. It's uncertain and it's collaborative. And where those earlier remarks came with some veneer of manipulation or flattery or intimidation, here, finally, we get sincerity and authenticity, both given and received. This is Glinda's last spoken line. Here, she refers to her own title, the one that was given to her, assigned by other people, unearned, and arguably contradictory.
But if you will let me, I'd like to try to help. I'd like to try to be Glinda, the good.
And now she directly links the meaning of the word good to trying to help. Despite the word appearing often, the entire show, we've skirted around an actual definition of what is good. So, what do all the previous instances we've logged here have in common? Until, for good, the word was always defined externally. Despite it being applied to her, Glinda rarely used it herself. And the first time she did, she was explicitly referring to other people's feelings, while the second time was overtly disingenuous. Throughout Glinda's arc, the definition of good is overwhelmingly outsourced to two parties, and Glinda's major benefactors: the masses, and, to a lesser extent, authority figures. Fittingly, then, it's only after Glinda rejects both that she reaches her ground zero, her ability and, now, choice to define her own values, and kind of for the first time. And encapsulated in that first and last use of the word good in her opening and closing spoken lines is her journey. The first instance is much like those early expressions, a tongue-in-cheek appeal to the comforting image of the Ozian's government-appointed propaganda Barbie. Glinda leaning into her earliest understanding of how to wield image and charisma. And then there's her last use, an expression of her growth, her new wisdom, and her failures. In her phrasing, Glinda recognizes that she's maybe not quite deserving of that title. Nonetheless,
I'd like to try to help.
this is the first time that Glinda herself has implicitly, but actually defined good for herself. What's really compelling here is the emphasis on the lack of certainty on what it means to change for the better. And this uncertainty comes in stark contrast to what came before. All of the previous instances, disingenuous or not, were firm statements. You are good. That's good. There's none of that here. She'd just like to try. As I've said in another video, the weight of this isn't because it declares a fixed truth, but a commitment to effort. The imperfect, non-linear effort that we all have to put in to grow. The understanding that if there is good to mean helping, kindness, then it takes work, but that is work worth doing.